In this session, we're going to be utilizing the foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller at home, you could also use a large towel rolled for some of the work. As well as a roller today, you're going to need a band and perhaps some cushions for some support in the back of the head. Bring yourself to lay down. We are starting with legs bent and just looking at how we're presenting, how it feels to be laying down on our back today. Arms are going to be relaxed beside you. Take a moment or two before you start to move, just to check in what information sort of comes in at you straight away. How are your connections to the floor? What do you notice? And that's really the task, to notice without altering anything. So you've laid yourself down and absorbed some information there. And then just to help with that, just to tune in a little more, we're going to begin to move. And really simply, this is a rocking, a transferring of weight side to side, whereby which you get to connect and disconnect the back of the body away from the floor, which in turn is going to help inform you when you come to pause as to the whereabouts of your structures. So we're looking at our bony landmarks, starting with the back of the head. And as you're rocking side to side here, you're going to be sensing the back of the head, whether that is resting on your cushion or resting on the mat. But it has the ability to rock side to side with ease. We have a curved structure there. Just notice that with ease idea and how it's going to help generate some ease through the jaw, ease through the throat and the front of the neck. So really letting go. Feel free to have the eyes closed so that you get a heightened sense of feeling the back of you. We're moving down the body. What do you notice next? Could it be shoulder blades? Could it be ribs? Do you notice them at all coming into contact with the floor and then coming off? You'll see here that as you come off on one side, there is air between the back of the pelvis, ribs, shoulder blade, and even the top of the arm. And then you're transferring through, letting your bones fall back into the floor each time. Head down towards the pelvis in thought. The movement stays the same, but your awareness comes to, once more, this ability to rock towards the outside of what we often refer to as the hip, outside of the leg here, through the back of the body, past the sacrum middle point, and then over onto the other side. We're going to take a few more rocks. You may have finished already. You may want to continue a little bit more. But again, just noticing, how does that feel now that you've returned back to a center point? Maybe you feel like you've just upgraded in terms of your body awareness and your understanding of where you're resting. We're going to take this idea of weighted bones. We're going to bring it onto the foam roller. So the foam roller, or your towel, of course, is going to be laid down the center of your mat. You don't need any additional cushions unless, of course, the towel that you're using isn't quite long enough. In which case, I would suggest that becomes your head cushion and it's in line with the height of the other towel that you're using. And so the roller is going to head down the middle of the mat, as I mentioned. It does work better if you come up to a seated, perched position, as opposed to trying to get the roller underneath your back somehow from laying down. And whilst you're there, you can look at symmetry through the feet, toes pointing forwards. And then it doesn't need to be a perfect roll down. You're going to use the floor to help you. I would tilt the pelvis here as opposed to putting weight through the sacrum. And you want the sacrum to be on the end anyway, so that when you eventually lay down, and this roller is 90 centimeters in length, so when you've laid down, you definitely want to have your head on your roller as well. So just sort of noticing how that feels, in that it's a different surface. It's not covering the entire breadth of the body as the floor just was. See whether you can be letting go in the same way you were as you were rocking side to side. And there's this assurance really that the more you can relax onto the roller, the less it will move around, the more you can remain calm, the less it will move around. And really, we're here to begin to explore some mobility in the shoulders today, so noticing how they feel as we head into some arm arcs initially. So when you feel ready to, and you know that you could be wider with your foot position if you hadn't quite settled yet, when you feel ready to, you're going to begin to take the arms upwards and backwards, really pulling long there, and then bringing the arms back down beside you. Feel free to return the arms all the way back down to the mat to touch down if you're looking for some support, or you can bring the arms back to alongside your body and go again. The breath pattern may be one that you're taking the inhale to arc the arms initially, or it might be that you're using the exhale for that moment. See whether you can attach one of them, and then see if then your pace of movement could be led by that breath pattern. Last one here. If you close or pause with the arms to the ceiling, we're going to head into open and close from here. So yes, there's a reach because there's an expansion, but there's also a falling backwards of the upper arms. Notice how that feels through the front of the body, the front of the chest. Bring your awareness to your shoulder blades and notice how with the weight of the arms opening the chest, how that changes the connection of the shoulder blades to the roller behind you. So you don't have to force anything, but just notice what might be happening back there. As with the arcs, we're not heading for a particular range here. You're just noticing how it is and going with that, encouraging the tissue to expand straight across the chest, straight through the upper arms. And then we're going to play with the angle at which the arms are opening, because that's going to pick up the different tissue across the chest. So I'm heading into a high V. My palms are still going to turn to face the sky here. And each time you take the V shape, high V or low V, you could even end up heading down low there. You might notice a disruption in the roller, just due to perhaps coordination. Maybe one arm is moving ahead of the other. If you can keep the ribs contained, you really get to stretch the insides of the arm, whichever angle you're choosing there. If we head back to the ceiling point, our starting position of the open and close, you're going to bend your elbows. We're looking at a rough 90 degrees there. So the elbows have effectively stayed vertical. And then similar movement, you have the collarbones widening and the elbows moving out to the side. And then heading back up towards the ceiling. Go wider with the legs again if you feel like you need to. If you feel like there is some different patterning through the arms. Maybe one arm gets further than the other. Does that feel like it throws you? If it doesn't resolve itself, then it may be that the wider stance helps out. We're going to finish with single arm arcs. So we head back to the ceiling once more, and here we have one arm moving upwards and away and the other arm heading down. And your choice again, it could come all the way down towards the floor, or it could finish at the side of your body. Their palms are facing in towards each other, so there will be a moment through there where they pass. And again, you're looking to reach and extend there. It's much more about the length created fingertip to fingertip, ultimately, than it is about the hands touching the floor. Listening in and noticing how that feels for you. Fingers heading back up towards the ceiling. And know that at any point you could have taken a rest there. You're heading off your roller, sliding off to the side and settling yourself back down onto your mat. And really looking at, drawing a comparison from initially how you presented, how that felt following the rocking movement, and certainly how it feels now, having come back onto your flat and balanced surface. We're heading into dead bugs from here. We're going to use the information specifically through the pelvis just to help us with organisation. Little head cushion could come back. With the dead bugs, we're going to use the roller to create some asymmetry between their legs. So you're going to have your roller over to the side. It's coming down towards the foot end. And then you're looking to work with the feet as if they're alongside each other still. But one foot will be raised, arch of the foot heading onto the roller there, and the other foot will be down on the floor. So take your time to organise yourself. How is that? And then certainly you've still got the information coming in to the back of the body having come off the roller. So the middle of the pelvis, for example, feels really obvious. If you didn't work with asymmetry, perhaps you know that your pelvis has that flexibility to easily drop into a side-to-side pelvic tilt, and you'd rather look to work with it feeling balanced all the time. There's no reason why you couldn't have both feet on the roller here now. So the movement was starting differently from the top of the thigh bones with the both feet being raised. Otherwise, it's a connection downwards with the foot that's resting on the roller, a floating dead bug leg there, and then returning back down towards the mat. With you using the sole of the foot, you're creating some connections up the back of the leg, and you're in charge of that. If it feels like it's too strong, then perhaps you're pushing down a little bit too much. You could relax off. So we're looking at connecting into not only the hamstrings, but you might even feel the back of the lower leg as well. Also being aware of our connection point of the foot on the roller. Are we able to shape our arch to the curve of the roller? And then as you're moving there, is the pelvis able, without feeling forced, is it able to stay pretty much in the same position as you're lifting and lowering? There's an option to lift the arms. The last one. And we relax there and slide the roller over. Looking for the feet to be working alongside each other. Just feeling the roller with the arch of the other leg now. And then connecting downwards to lift. As one leg pushes down, there's an ease through the opposite hip in order that the opposite leg then can be lifted and lowered. With that real efficient, low level effort. Arms can lift as an option. Just sensing whether there's any rotation happening at any point. Grounded and heavy. So if you stood up and left the floor, you'd leave an imprint of your sacrum, the outside of the pelvis, Pausing there. From there, the roller is going to come underneath your bent legs. You don't need a head cushion anymore because we're going to head into some bridging. Take yourself up the mat so that once you've finished your bridging, you have room enough to slide the legs away from you. And so finding the feet back on the floor alongside each other, standing down into the feet, hovering, tilting and peeling. And take a breath in up at the top. And as you breathe out, sigh. Widen through the sit bones and land to go again. There's options to raise the arms here as well. And as the body returns that last time, you're going to split the difference. So the feet do come in and the pelvis does roll away slightly from its resting place. You have the arches of the feet down on the roller and you stand and hover and reach the knees away from you. Breathing out, widening through the sit bones to land. Down to come up. Four if you can. Arms can come and relax beside you. Lengthen the legs away and come straight into footwork. So footwork has a similar focus to the dead bug movement. It's really demonstrating, do you have the ability to move the thigh bones independently of your body? So here you'll notice that there's that quietness again. The pelvis isn't tilting towards and away from the ribs, yet you're able to flex through the front of the hip and the knees to draw the roller in towards you. And you could play around with where you're starting the movement depending on where you're looking to finish. So if the knees don't want to bend in so much there, maybe you're working with a reduced amount of range in that movement, you could start with the roller further away from you. Arms are being added in here. Feel free to pause with the legs lengthened away if you want to. Heels reaching long. Last one. When the roller's in next, it's going to come all the way underneath you once more, and you're going to interlace your fingers and take them behind the head. So the thumbs are pointing downwards, elbows are narrow. You'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, the back ribs will push back into the floor for the face to come forwards. And as you inhale, unravel, laying yourself back down. Breath out. And inhale. And here we head into our variation of footwork with a chest lift. It also emulates a variation for jumping as well on the reformer. So you have the length to curl yourself up, and then in the raised position, in the chest lift position, you're going to send the roller away and draw it back in towards you. Out and in would class as 1, and we're looking for between 4 and 6 reps, I think would be a good amount to aim for. And then laying yourself down from there. We are going to head onto our side and we're going to move into book openings. We're not going to use the roller for our book openings, so you could move it out of your way. But do grab your head cushions and come to lay on your side. So you can see how the cushion really isn't in front of my eyes, it's behind me. So along with that rocking movement that we started with, where we were tuning into the back of the head, we get an opportunity to sense that here as well. As you open your top arm, it might be that you need to slightly lift the head in order to be able to turn it. Depends on how that initial rotation feels. Or you might find that the head could continue to drop where it starts, and that is what is bringing you all the way around there. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, bring yourself all the way back to your starting position. So we're opening. Heavy head. And when you've brought yourself back round there, roll over onto the other side. As you breathe out, head just gently dropping into your cushion, into your towel. Breath in when you're open. And breath out to bring you back. And notice if it feels any different for you, having had the arm arc series today done on the roller. Just give through the chest, might just feel a little different. And then bringing yourself back to your starting position. We're going to head onto our back for some hamstring prep. So you could keep some of your cushions there. Grab your band. We're going to look at putting the band around one of the feet. Doesn't matter which foot you start with first. We're looking at just some gentle lengthening and then some leg circles. So wide band. As you place the band on the foot, can it cover as much of the surface area of your foot as possible? Really looking at ball of the foot, arch of the foot. And then, because we're prepping for leg circles as well, you're going to be aware of the length through the side of the body. You're going to be aware of the leg that's staying down on the floor, reaching long and away from you. And the width across the chest again, with the elbows on the floor. Once you feel that you're well organized, you'll take a breath in and start to bend the knee. Again, flexing at the hip. And then a breath out to send the leg away from you. As you send the leg away, it doesn't matter if it doesn't find a straight position. And from here, we're going to head into some circles. The leg is going to head across the body first. And we've got 4 mini circles in one direction, and then 4 mini circles in the other direction. Stand into the band. Again, hoping to maintain that width. Keep the band quite tight as you do so. Reach the leg long that you've just worked with, and also just double check as you switch legs that you're also long in the side of the body of the leg that's raised. So keep checking in with the organization. We're heading into mini circles. And then from there, we're going to look at moving into some rolling sequences. The first of which is going to be an assisted roll up. So you could from here bring your legs up, hold on to the backs of the legs and roll yourself up. Or if you wanted to start from a seated position, simply roll yourself onto your side and bring yourself up to seated from there. You can use a cushion to begin with. Now feet are going to be in your parallel position, facing forwards, and your hands are going to be behind the backs of your legs. So you're finding your sit bones a little bit like you may have done seated on a block, a little bit like you may have done seated on a roller at some point. And then you're going to use your feet. It's as if you're trying to stretch your mat away from you, just to get that opposing tilt through the pelvis. Feet drawing towards you when you need them. Be aware that that's not so early. As you're on your back here, you're considering your approach to chest lift earlier. How the back ribs push back. You're simply rolling the sacrum forward, and that's what's bringing you up into your seated position once more. Use your arms if you just like to feel that you're working on the extension of the spine once you're back up to your starting position each time. Rolling sacrum. And then if you have been using something, take that away. See how you can work with the same sense of calm and relaxation. And still manage to articulate the spine in the same way. We're going to begin to keep the feet off the floor. So once you've rolled down next time and you've found yourself on your back, you'll still use the legs to bring you forwards, and you'll still use the chest lift for the body to come back, but you're actually going to stay up in a seated position with the feet off. You might find that you're towards the back of your sit bones. And then as you breathe out to return, it's a case of tilting the pelvis, dropping the legs into the hands just to create a counterbalance. And then again, it's as if your feet would have drawn towards you to lift off there. So breathing out, but then just finding a balance point. Legs go away from you, and then draw back. Oh, when you're up next, you're going to stay up. And you can bring the feet separately down onto the floor. We're heading into Mermaid. You're going to bring your left leg in front and your right leg behind you. And just look at how that feels as an initial position. Do you today want to lift the pelvis up a little higher, build yourself a little pile of books or blocks or cushions? Take a breath in when you're ready. You're going to lift the arm, taking yourself up and over into your side bend. Take a breath in when you're here, and as you breathe out, you're going to pass through the center and reach the opposite arm upwards and reach that up and over as well. Breathing in. And breathing out then, as we look at continuously transferring our side bend movement side to side. Pausing when you're heading towards your back leg next, and then switch the legs. Notice how this feels. And then when you're ready to, Lifting your arm, heading up and over towards your front leg first. And then up and over towards your back leg. When you've headed towards your back leg next, you're going to head onto your front. We're going to open with Swan here, so coming to lay down. You get a choice of the hands. Ordinarily they would come beside the chest, but if you wanted to take more of a goalpost position today, you could. Having looked at that in the arm series, find your length. So that could mean that you walk your legs away from your pelvis as a set-up position. And then forehead is at a hover, reaching the crown of the head forwards. Looking to send the sternum forwards too, wide through the chest, and breathing out to bring yourself back down again. Really look at what sensations you get coming in. If they head low quite quickly, keep it smaller. Really focus on the lengthening of the neck, the lifting of the back of the head, and then the sending forward of the sternum. And maybe that's high in your mind, just below the collarbones. And then hang on to that sensation of where you're placing the work. And just start to focus on the lower sternum moving forwards. Notice what it generates as you change your thoughts. And it changes after it's been utilized. So collarbones would be first. Lower sternum. Notice the low back ribs, how they're starting to be involved now. And then providing you can manage all of those in sequence, so crown of the head, high sternum moves forward, low sternum moves forward, you can keep them as part of the movement and send the floor away with the arms. High, low. Send the floor away. Your hips are extended. Last one. Hands are going to head underneath the forehead, and we're going to come into single leg kick. Your choice as to whether you point or flex the ankles. So you have the pelvis pushing downwards as you lift the single leg. Pelvis pushing downwards as you lift the single leg, and of course adding in the in moment as well. And then there are some options here. In order to add some extension, you simply hover your forehead from where you came, widening through the chest. And continue. Or if you'd like to come up a little bit higher, you could as well, coming onto 2 forearms. Last one. Resting down, bringing yourself up into a child's pose, just to find that opposing curve of the spine. Remember how we can head into more of a cat shape, pushing the floor away, creating a little bit more space perhaps for you. Maybe all the way up onto the knees. Just noticing the curvature through the back and how it changes as you move into different positions there. And then you're going to bring yourself up to stand. You could take a step up or a reverse roll up, whatever might feel like it was most appropriate in the space in which you're working. Toes are pointing forwards here, and we're heading into a rolling down. So you're lowering the gaze and you're softening through the upper body, and the ribs are turning in, and the arms are going to stay loose. And of course, you're going to be softening your knees, depending on how that feels as you're heading down. As you breathe out, just gently lifting. It's as if the front of the skin moves away from the clothing as well. It's quite subtle, all with the breath out and the sending of the feet down into the floor. We're going to head into our plank now, walking forward onto the hands as an option. And then sending the heels backwards and downwards as we head back, softening the knees as we arrive, changing the gaze from the floor to our own body. And then unraveling our way up. And there we are. Well done, everyone. Take care.